Hi, I'm Ellie O'Brien. I play Grace on My Life with the Walter Boys, and you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So I am so excited today to be joined by today's guests. We're going to be talking all things My Life with the Walter Boys with Grace herself, Ellie O'Brien. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Ellie.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Real quick, guys, before we jump into the questions, just want to give you a heads up. Probably going to get into some spoilers here. So if you guys haven't finished watching the show, if you haven't, what are you doing? Make sure you go watch that. But I just want to give you that heads up so that way, in case we mention anything here. But without further ado, Ellie, I just wanted to start off by saying, you play Grace in the show. Uh, when you got the role and you were first like reading the scripts, what were your initial thoughts of the character?
Yeah, I think Grace is a fun character because she is quite archetypal, like we've seen Graces before in media, so it was a lot of for me upon like the first kind of introduction. Oh, okay, so it's kind of like this and it's kind of like that, and she's just she's interesting in that she's kind of an every girl, like they've got the every man, she's the every girl. That's how I like to put it anyways. And yeah, I mean she's quite different than any other character I've played before. So it was really it was nice to tap into a different part of myself and start to think about what that could look like on me, like what Grace will look like with integrated into some of my personality. So that was a fun little journey. And yeah, I guess like everybody else, I was like, wow, this girl talks a lot really fast. And there's like a lot of lines just to say, um, like quickly, like long lines. I guess she's almost like whenever she talks, it's like a monologue. So that was a cool challenge. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it must be nice, like you said, just getting to play someone that you haven't had the chance or the opportunity to do yet in your career. It must be always nice to kind of to dive into that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think growing up, I was always like the creepy kid. I got a lot of like horror and sci-fi, and I was always like the child with the prophecy, so or whatever. So playing something just fun and comedic was really, really, really great for a first time, experience. Like I never considered myself like a funny person. I don't really even still consider myself a funny person, but I think Grace is really funny. So to try and, bring that out of myself was a lot of fun and a totally different part of acting for me. So I looked at it very differently than I looked at anything else.
Well, I would
Yeah.
say, Ellie, we're the same growing up. I was kind of the same thing where I was into horror and stuff at like a pretty young age. So it sounds like we would have been, similar as far
Yeah.
as that goes. So
Yeah.
what you said it's a different character, but I'm curious, like what elements of yourself did you bring to Grace compared to what might have initially been in like some of the scripts for the character?
Yeah, I had to do a lot of looking back in my life for Grace, I think. Like she's so for me, like the essence of a teenage girl is like really within her and she's so excited about life and she's got this kind of like I don't know, beautiful like dramatic travesty about her where she's just like everything is so important all the time. And I think I definitely had a lot of that when I was a teenage girl. So I mean when we started filming, I think my first day of filming was like my 20th birthday. So I'd only just like crossed into not being a teenage girl anymore, but it was fun to kind of look back at that and kind of find the drama in high school life again. So that was great. And I think Grace has this really fun confidence where she's just like, well, yeah, this is the way it is, and I don't mind asking this question, and this is what I'm thinking, and I'm probably right, so I'm gonna say it. And there's something I guess like something about that where it's like if you're experiencing this kind of like confidence or sense of self for the first time, I think there's something really beautiful about that and something that I think Grace is going through probably in the first season. So I had to look back at funnily enough, like when I used to listen to I remember when what was it called? All About That Bass by
Oh
Megan
yeah.
Trainor came out when I was like 13 or 14. I think that was one of those experiences for me of like feeling confident in yourself and your like individuality for one of the first times. So I actually listened to that song a lot playing Grace, funnily enough. But Yeah, I think that's it was a lot of retrospective stuff, but yeah, really fun to go back into that time in my life for sure.
I love that. I love that confidence about her. Although we find in the show that sometimes that confidence can definitely get her in trouble a little
Yeah.
bit, where she doesn't necessarily maybe realize who's like around her saying different things. But it makes for a fun time. And like you were saying, being in high school, it's crazy how things that we think are so like we think almost every decision is like this really big moment where you look back on it later and you're like, I might have been, blowing that up a little bit more than what it really was.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. There was a lot of that. And you're right about getting her into trouble a lot, which I think is what's so fun about it. And what makes Grace kind of feel real to me anyways, is, oh, kind of put your foot in your mouth a little bit as a teenager and it's like whatever, you move on and there's just so
Yeah.
many I think Jackie's a great character for that as well, because Jackie's very forgiving and patient with Grace a lot of the time. She doesn't have to be, so yeah,
Yep.
it plays really well, and I was excited to see that it worked. At least in my opinion, on screen, because yeah,
Yeah, because you're shooting the stuff, and obviously, you're there in the moment shooting it, but it can play out like a little bit different, sometimes when you go to like actually see how it turned out like on film. So I mean, that must be nice to be like, okay, that's kind of like what I was going for, and that's how it turned
yeah.
out. Now, you mentioned as far as was there a moment during filming or even reading the scripts where you kind of really understood who Grace was for the very first time? You're like, oh, okay, this is who she is.
That's a good question. I think there's in the script, it was in the script, it got cut actually, but there's a little montage scene there was at the end of scene or at the end of episode one. There was like little montages of all the characters in their home life
Okay.
that I found really interesting. And we shot all of it. I guess just wasn't the time at the end of the day, which, happens. But there's a scene where Grace is kind of at home praying with her family and it's very short. Obviously, we've all just got our hands joined and I think when we filmed that, although it never made the cut, there was this outfit that I was wearing for like I guess my at-home outfit that I wear with my parents and it was so different than anything else that Grace wears. I literally was like, "Oh my gosh, I look like I just came off like a ranch or something." Like, I don't know. It was this like gray, very square dress, and it was just so modest and so humble. And I'd been used to wearing like all these different colors and patterns and loud textures for Grace. And I was like, "Oh, this is what the difference is. This is she has this double life going on that I didn't even really consider because, it's I think she comes off as such a confident person that you don't really think about, or rather like she lives in the moment where she's like not even thinking about what happened this morning or what she had for breakfast. Like it's just like what is happening right now and oh my God, I'm at school and this girl said this and da, 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 da. There's 100 million things going on right in this moment that I'm not even worried about that anymore. I'm not worried about how my parents might, you know, make me dress differently than I want to or whatever. So, yeah, I think that was a big moment. Like there's just such a stark difference in the way we see her at school than she might be at home. So, and that happened quite early on in the script. So, it was good to think about and keep with me as I kind of went with her because I don't think it's something we really see on screen, but um yeah, it was
Yeah,
crazy.
that's really interesting, and hopefully that's actually something that I noticed that we with Grace we didn't really get to see a lot of what her home life was, and understandable. I mean, like you got so many different characters like on the show, so it's like to like you guys all get your moments throughout the series, so far, but it's like to really dig into that. I think hopefully, season two and hopefully like even like future seasons, then it's like can really start digging into these characters and learning a little bit more about what their life is like at home. So maybe like season two, season three, four, stuff like that, we can learn a little bit
Yeah.
more about what our life is at home.
Yeah, yeah, I think that would be cool. I think a lot of the characters have a lot to say. I always think that about Skylar, Jalen's character, and Kylie as well, Milo's character, because there's like Maya's character, Kylie works like 1 billion jobs, and I'm like, I want to know why. What is this girl like saving for? Is like the
Yeah.
apocalypse coming? Does something we don't? Like, I'd love to know. So yeah, there's a lot to be said, and I think the way it worked with season one was really optimizing that in a way that it's like you get a little bit and you're not quite sure and you ask, you want to find out, but you're still really engrossed in the world of like, the the Walter boys and, their kind of dynamic with Jackie as well. So yeah, I think it ended up being kind of the perfect picture and that just draws you in a little bit. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited for season two. I keep saying as soon as I get those scripts, nobody talk to me for a week. I'll be in
Want to
bed
dig
and I'll
in.
be reading. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that's exactly the point of like a season one. Leaves you wanting more from this world and from these characters, and I think they did a good job with that. At one point, Grace, she's talking to Skylar and Jackie, and she says, like, it's so cool. There's rumors about you, and then at one point she's talking to Jackie, and she says how she wishes her life was more exciting. Uh,
Mm.
where does that kind of come from, and why does Grace feel that way in your opinion, especially where we don't get to necessarily see, as much of her backstory, like her home life, like up to this point so far?
Yeah. I think in my mind that Grace has probably led a very sheltered life, and I think she's been kind of stunted or maybe like, taken away from a couple things here and there throughout her life. And I think when you're a teenage girl and you're kind of living in that dramatically beautiful um lens, I guess I want to say, or you're living through that lens, it could feel like, and I understand why it would feel like something is missing for her, there's that kind of like, just I think especially in a small town, you just want something to happen, something to kind of swoop you away and just make everything different for a change.
Yeah.
And I think that's understandable, especially with like the kind of um life she leads at home. Even if you just look at, I'm gonna go back to this montage scene again because I think it made a lot of things clear to me. But even just like the colors that we were working with in that moment. So like I was wearing an all gray dress and like gray stockings, and it was just colorless. And even the set we were on was very brown and gray, and it was like kind of dimly lit. And I was like, there is a sparkle here that Grace has that's not being reflected in this space or in this clothes or like, in this world. So I get why she wants to break out of that and just, see what else the world has to offer. She's probably one of those who's always writing in her journal. I know I was like this, like, I can't wait to move to a big city and see New York and all this kind of stuff. And I'm excited for her to be on that journey as, a character, whether we see it or not. Um, I'd be rooting for her to get to see some of that. Yeah.
No, yeah, for sure. It definitely makes a lot of sense. Although it's funny, like watching those scenes, being like an adult and you're watching them, and especially the line where she says like, "Oh, I wish there were more rumors about me," and you're just sitting there and you're like, "Trust me, no, you probably don't want that." But
Mhm.
again, it's high school. It's like everything. You just want everything to be exciting, and so like I do understand like where she's coming from, but it is kind of funny just to watch it from like an adult
Oh
point
yeah.
at the
It's
same time.
hilarious. Yeah. I do I had a lot of those moments myself. I think because obviously I'm not 15 anymore either. So it was a lot of fun to kind of go back to that, like I'm saying. And yeah, to kind of like deliver those lines with a sense of like truth and honesty was a fun thing because it's like, we can see the ridiculousness in that. But for her to genuinely, I think she genuinely wouldn't mind
Yeah.
having some rumors about her. I think she'd be like, no, that's not true. And like she'd be happy to get in the PA system at school and set everybody straight. And that would be the best thing ever for Grace. I don't know.
It's funny too, because like Grace really has like her pulse on the whole school, like the student body. Like we see her throughout the first season. She knows all the rumors, knows what's going on with everybody. She goes up to other people, finding out the stories and stuff like that. So that
Yeah.
must have been a lot of fun just for you to play, just to kind of been like going around to everybody like that.
Yeah. No, that's my favorite part about Grace, I think. And I think that stems from probably a lot of boredom. Like I was saying, I think she's led a very sheltered life and probably doesn't get screen time or things that, these like other kids her age probably like don't even think twice about. So she spends a lot of time just like psychoanalyzing people and drawing maps of like who's dated who and what happened last summer and da 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 da. So I did a lot of that reading the scripts. I wanted to understand everybody from Grace's point of view because she has so many opinions about people. So I wanted to try and form them and, flesh her out a little bit there, which was fun. So yeah,
I could
my
almost
are all like marked up and scribbled with her thoughts on everything.
I could almost see her like, if we get later, several seasons down the line, getting into like, jobs and starting like careers and stuff like that, or looking at, different areas. I feel like I could see Grace looking into maybe like journalism or, being
Yeah.
like a reporter or something like that, just where she loves learning about, everyone at school. I could see that being a field that she's very, interested in the future, possibly.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. I think about where she's gonna go. And I know Mel, who's our showrunner, had brought this up to me once. That was like she had said, Grace is gonna go on to live the most fulfilling and beautiful life, and it's gonna be awesome, and she's gonna be very just, happy because she's just a nice girl all the time to everybody, and she means well, and she has these pure intention. Well, she's not nice all the time to everybody, but she's got pure intentions all the time, I
Yeah,
think is a fair statement. Um, yeah, so I think about that too. And I think journalism is a big one. I always think about like the arts and fashion as well, and her kind of um the way she wants to express herself through clothes is a big part of her life and maybe part of her career
true.
one day as well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
either one of those I think would be like a
Yeah.
perfect fit for her. One of my like favorite moments in the first season too is the moment where her and Jackie are talking, and Jackie wants her to wear the dress.
Yeah.
What does it mean to Grace that Jackie wants her to wear Lucy's dress?
Yeah, I think that's a big, big moment too. Yeah, I think doing that through clothes is a really important way for them to connect and reflect on. I'm sure they've had a lot of conversations off screen or wherever about Jackie's life before Colorado in New York, and probably a lot of conversations about her sister. Jackie loves her sister, right? So I'm sure they talk about her all the time, and Grace probably has this image of her as like a, almost like a goddess, like somebody who's just been described with such poise and perfection that it's almost like, wow, she must have been great. So to wear that dress, I think is probably, I would say, like the high point of their friendship and relationship to one another. I think it's really, really sweet and speaks volumes about Jackie as well, how generous and just kind she is. I think Jackie's such a great character. I love her, especially in the first episode. I was like, get away, like everybody be nice to Jackie. Like she's such a sweetie. Um, yeah, I think that's one of my favorite scenes for sure.
Yeah, I love any like watching shows, movies, things like that. I always love those little. They might be little moments, but
Mhm.
they really go a long way in describing, the relationship between, two characters, like in this instance. And you can just tell, yeah, like how much or what Jackie, thinks of Grace to want to offer her to, wear that dress where it belonged to her sister, who was obviously an important person in her
Yeah.
life. So I'd love, yeah, I love the friendship, between Jackie and Grace. And kind of speaking of that, can you just talk about, working with, you got quite a few scenes with, Nikki Rodriguez in the series, and then even the rest of the cast and the crew. I mean, incredible cast. So can you just talk about working with them, and do you have any like stories of you guys just like hanging out, doing things behind the scenes?
Yeah, yeah, we did a lot of hanging out in Calgary, all of us, and it was nice because I'd never really been in a cast of people who were my own age before, so it was really interesting to, go out places with your friends, like places that you would go with friends. So
Yeah.
it was a really, really great time. And I'm really glad we get to go back and do it all again. It almost feels like, the rug could be, it's almost like too good to be true. I'm like waiting for something to go. I don't know. It's like, it's very exciting stuff. But yeah, working with Nikki was wonderful. I think Nikki is very, very confident and very self-assured and very like, she comes to set with this kind of like grace and calmness that is it's very nice to work with, especially on a big set like that. And it's funny because it depends who you're working with. Every day is different on the Walter Boys for sure. Like if I'm working with Jalen, I know it's just going to be like all day. And I love that. Or if it's gonna, if we're working with Ashby, Ashby's like he's always got a song in his head and he's always running around like he's very much an actor in that way. You kind of have to let him do his thing and go, okay, buddy, like whatever you want, whatever you say. Um, so that's always fun too. And he puts you in the mood for the scene a lot, which is always really fun. And I just love working with Maya too, who's always like I could sit and we could, giggle and gab for hours. So yeah, there's always something to look forward to. And every day is I think especially with Grace, who's kind of all over the place and talking to everybody and always got something to say and can like pop her head into any situation. I mean, there's this scene where Alex and Jackie are having like a very intense moment, and Grace literally like bursts through the door. Why are you into Walter House, girl? Like, what happened? There's like no explanation for that right off the bat. So, she's like a little buzzy bee, which I love because I
Yep.
love working with everybody. And yeah,
I love
so
those little moments where sometimes Grace would just like randomly pop up, seems to pop up out of nowhere, and she's like, "All right, guys, here I am."
yeah,
Even that moment where a couple of you they're getting ready, they're all to go off like do date night, and
yeah.
you guys, she's like, "Oh yeah, like I'll go bowling and to the arcade like with you guys or whatever," and they're you can tell they're kind of like, we want to do like our own thing. She's just like, "I'll come with."
Yeah, that's a good one. I saw actually yesterday, I think it was Jalen who posted an edit. Some like I love watching all the little edits that the fans make and everything. They're so fun. And one of them had that scene in it. And it's like me going, "Yeah, guys, I'll come join you at the arcade." And then it's Jalen and Corey looking at each other like, no. And somebody had put like girl, like they'd put their inner thoughts on the characters, which was a lot
Oh,
of
that's
fun.
great.
Yeah, yeah. So that was cute. Um,
Yeah, I imagine you've seen a ton of them with just with like, with the popularity of the show. I'm sure you've seen probably a ton of the fan edits, fan art, and just like,
yeah,
people
yeah,
reaching out to you and stuff like that. So I imagine that must be pretty cool.
yeah. It's really cool. I think especially like I'm in film school just now, like for film and TV production, like behind the scenes stuff. So I've been learning a lot about editing, obviously. So to see how much work people put into these things and it's like it's crazy how there's like 14-year-old girls carrying this industry on their back with these edits. Like it's insane. Because I see a lot of them posted and then the comments are like, wait, what show is this? I want to watch this. Like, what is that? It's crazy. It's like, I don't know what we would do without teenage girls. This
Oh
thing
yeah.
will go around. So
It's super impressive. Yeah, just and how fast they're able to do it too.
Uh-huh.
Like, the show comes out and I'm sure probably like the within like the first day, within a couple hours, there was probably already edits of, different characters and stuff like that out on social media and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. My sister she's like 12 or 13, so she's like perfectly in that algorithm space where they're just always feeding them to her. She
Yeah.
sends them to me sometimes and I'm always impressed, especially like you're saying with the speed of them. There's some accounts that post like an edit every day.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're putting in work, girl.
You're like, yeah, yeah. You're like,
Yeah.
damn, that's impressive.
Yeah, seriously.
As far as like Grace goes too, like she's really become like a fan favorite character on the series. So why do you think, I mean, like obviously for you that must feel really nice, anytime you create a character that just connects with fans on that level. Why do you think this, character connected with the fans so much?
Yeah, I think what's nice about Grace, or something that I picked up on the first couple times reading it, was that Grace kind of feels like she's come from a different world than the rest of the characters, in a way that she almost feels like she's been kind of plucked out of the audience and put into Silver Falls and gets to like look around and go, "Oh my God, what's happening? Like, where am I?" It's like she goes home and she reads Wattpad books about this kind of thing. Like she's just thriving. So I think that she was probably very relatable to a lot of audience members in that way, where she's just got that same excitement about what's going on. So yeah, I guess that's part of it. And I also think she's not afraid to say what people are thinking sometimes. And I mean sometimes that's the opposite, where she says something and you're like, "Girl, where did that come from?" Like the luckiest girl in this whole school is a big one for me. I always think that's so funny. Her whole family's just died. But yeah, I think it's just that kind of almost like a mouthpiece for the audience in some moments that I think is really really fun, and I feel very honored to get to do that. And Mel writes it very well, who's our showrunner.
That's
He
very
puts in a lot of great lines for Grace. So
It's a very interesting way to think of it. I didn't think of it that way, but now like watching, like I'll have to go back and watch a series and because I tend to connect with those characters. I don't know if you're a fan of like the Scream movies at all.
yeah,
But like the original, the first two films, so the character of Randy, who's like kind of like
yeah,
the movie nerd, and he's almost like like an audience member put into one of these movies, and so like I was always able to really connect with him. So I think
yeah,
that's kind of the same situation, for my life with the Walter Boys. Grace, like you said, is kind of like the
yes.
audience member.
Absolutely. That's a really great comparison. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I watched Scream recently for a class actually, and I was like, "Oh, that's the same thing. That's Grace." Like I made that connection as well, and I think he's a great example of that. Like what is he? He's like, "Haven't you ever seen a horror movie? Like you can't
Hey, you don't know the rules?
Yeah, you don't know the rule. Yeah, exactly. It's like that. And I think yeah, Grace gets a lot of those little moments where she's like, hello, like there's two boys here and you gotta, she's always got an opinion.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, I feel like there's a rare moment of when Grace is around that she doesn't have something to say or wants to have her input in the situation in some kind of way,
Yeah.
for good or for bad sometimes. But
Yeah.
she's never got a moment where it's like you're not going to hear something, her Grace's thoughts, I feel like.
Yeah. And I think the only scene that is like that, which I thought was funny, is the scene with Aaron, where Aaron in the first episode is like, "You better stay away from my man, Miss J. Crew." And Grace is there and she's just kind of like, "I'm so terrified. I'm really scared."
True.
That's a good one because I think Aaron is a great character as well. And to see that kind of her arc, I wonder where they'll go with that. I hope they get to be besties and we can look back on that first episode or something and go, wow, I was really gagged by you. Like I was terrified. So
Yeah, no, she had a great arc for sure. Because I was like wondering starting off the show, I'm like, wait, like is she just gonna be like the mean girl kind of like throughout the first season? Like where's this character gonna go? And by the end of the first season, just getting to see that, I imagine like being an actor too, having that arc is just like a beautiful thing to watch
yeah.
play out as you're filming it. And yeah, I mean, where would you like, do you have any ideas of like where you would like to see Grace go in season two? I know we kind of talked about learning maybe a little bit more about her like family life and stuff like that, but anything else?
I don't know. I think with Grace, yeah, I think the family life stuff is a big part of how I look at her. So I would be interested to see what that looks like in a script or, on screen, that kind of thing. I definitely I love that the relationship I love the relationship she has with Jackie for sure. I'd love to see more of that and more of those, kind of fun girly moments. Um, but otherwise, yeah, I guess it's fun. I feel like right now, because they're writing season two, we're just kind of like in the hands of a writer's room somewhere, just like waiting to see what happens. So yeah, I'm excited. And I think Melanie's great. So whatever she comes up with, I think will be wonderful. And I'm excited
Eagerly
to get back into it.
eagerly waiting to get your guys' hands on those scripts so you can
Oh
see
yeah.
what's coming up for the characters.
Yeah, it'll be hard to, I think, in the first season, it's like nobody really was asking because it's like the first season, right? But I know as soon as I get those scripts, especially my little sister is going to be like, give me the scripts. I'm going to be like,
Like, nope,
fight them. I have to pretend I never got them. It's
you'll
going
have
to
to
be,
wait.
yeah, yeah.
And of course, have to ask you, Ellie, as far as are you Team Cole or are you Team Alex?
Good question. I always say I was Team Alex because I love a nice boy. I think he's very nice. And then you know what? I think you get together and I realized, well, you know what? I think Jackie needs to go. I think she needs to leave. I think she needs to
That's
worry
fair.
about herself. So I guess yeah, I ended up Team Jackie. Team Jackie, get out of there, girl.
So
Do what you
it's
scared
funny,
her.
Ellie. So you're the first. I was waiting to see what you're going to say because you are the first one to everyone else so far that I've talked to has been Team Cole. So
I
you're the
don't know.
first one.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. I think I love like Cole as a character. I think he gets a great arc as well. Um, but yeah, I guess I'm
But I
just a
get what
sucker
you're
for a
saying.
nice guy. Yeah, like I just loved Alex. He's so cutie. I
Yeah.
want to push him, right? He's so cute.
But hey, it's good that we got some, variety too. It's not just all like, one character
Yeah.
because I know there's fans for all of them out there. So it's nice to
Yeah.
hear, from the other side as well. Is there anything else you want to say, Ellie, just to, to wrap things up, about working on the show or just to say to the fans in general?
I guess, well, yeah, I guess thanks to everybody who took the time to watch it. I think it's a good one for over the break and everybody was cozy at home. So it's really surreal to think that people were choosing to spend their time with the show that we made like what feels like forever ago now because um we did it back in 2022. So yeah, I guess a big hug to everybody who took the time to do that because now I get to go back and see my little friends again, which is wonderful and very exciting. I feel very lucky and blessed. So yeah.
Make sure you guys, while you're waiting, make sure you check out My Life with the Walter Boys, which is on Netflix now. Continue watching the series, a couple times until we get the new season, and then you'll be able to, to dive into some more episodes. As far as for you, Ellie, I know, so Instagram is your handle. Is it just like your name as far as like
Yeah.
the handle goes?
Yeah. Ellie O'Brien with three O's I added in there to, just give some suspense. I don't know. Ooh,
A
Brian.
little different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that way people can, yeah, keep up to date with, with not only My Life with the Walter Boys, but anything else that you got coming up for projects too. But
Yeah.
yeah. Hey, Ellie, thank you so much again for, for taking time out of your schedule. I know that you're super busy. I had a wonderful time talking to you about the series. And yeah, you are welcome back anytime in the future.
Thank you so much. It was great talking to you. Hi, I'm Ellie O'Brien. I play Grace on My Life with the Walter Boys, and you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.